We had 200 people sign up. And by the way, everybody, this is a recorded webinar presentation. Everybody will get a recording. We're going to eventually put it on our YouTube channel, and everybody will get that link to watch at your leisure. Those that attended live and those who did not. By all means, please take notes. And again, we're US Probate Leads, right? And we're a highly recommended company in the real estate world. I talk to many clients through the years that recommend us, know about us, and they're happy with our data. I mean, John is a good guy to attest to what our data has done for him. And on that note, John, go for it. Introduce yourself. Let's get the party started.
All right, great. Yeah. So John Scipione, based in northern New Jersey. We're really like right outside of Hoboken. If you're familiar with Hoboken, we're right along the Hudson River, overlooking Manhattan. Jeff and I have been working together. Jeff, do you know how long? It's been
2018, I think, John.
Yeah, that's what we were thinking.
Yeah, I was gonna even say like 10 years. And I started as a realtor. I'm still a licensed realtor. And I've always been in coaching programs throughout the years. And my coach that I probably worked with for the longest was Mike Ferry. And Mike Ferry has always taught us to prospect and hunt for deals. That's the most profitable way to build your business as a realtor. And you could always go online and buy Zillow leads and buy all sorts of other stuff, but Mike always teaches you to pick up the phone. And I think another agent, can't even remember who, I'd love to give them credit, had turned me on to Jeff, and just the probate sector as a whole, as just being a really, really great lead source. I think at the time as a realtor, I was always calling expireds, and I was calling for sale by owners, and I was calling my database, of course, but there were not always that many people who were calling probate leads. So this other agent at Mike Ferry had said to me, you really ought to think about that sector and that lead source. And ever since, I've just been calling it heavily. And now we're even doing some of the pre-probate, which I always jokingly say is a fancy way of sort of saying like obituaries, right? Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep, no, you are correct, sir.
And here's the thing: is like I have a buddy of mine, a longtime friend, who, for reasons unbeknownst to me, he calls a lot of probate leads. But what he does is he drives to the courthouse or sends somebody to the courthouse to write down all the information themselves, then skip trace it themselves, and they're doing all of this stuff on their own. And maybe he gets a few leads quicker than me, but on a whole, I'm getting the spreadsheet from these guys, Jeff and Laura, every month. It's like clockwork, and I'm uploading that spreadsheet into my dialer, and we're pounding the phones.
What dialer system are you using, John?
So we've used many over the years. We've used Vulcan 7, we've used Mojo. Right now, we are actually using Follow Up Boss, which I'll admit to you is not the fastest dialer by any means. It's actually probably one of the slower ones, but it allows us to sort of cherry pick some of our deals. And I could get into that as well. Like I have for years, I was calling all of these leads myself, Jeff, and I would upload the list. And back then, though, I was starting with one county. I think I bought one county from you. Yeah. Now we're up to somewhere like 9 or 10 counties because we've had so much success. So back then, let's go say, like you said, 2018, I would get the one spreadsheet for one county from Jeff. And I jokingly said on our call last month on this same platform that if I got that list at 7 o'clock at night, I would turn the car around and go back to the office and
I
call
remember
through
that.
it just because it was so valuable.
Yeah.
And, I would say the one thing about probates is, um, over the last couple of years is it has become a little bit more of a popular source. So you do have to call them, and you have to call them quick.
Mm.
Because these people are going to do something. They inherited the house from somebody else generally. And it's a great lead source, but you got to call them quick because they're going to make decisions, which is a good thing for us. So you just have to be first. So I
Right.
was jokingly saying on the call last month is that I would turn the car around, upload the list, and start calling, or I'd be out of town at a real estate conference in Las Vegas when I should be out having drinks with friends. And I was
Yeah.
going back to the hotel room to upload my list because it just came in from Laura or Jeff. So
Right.
it really has been that successful for us.
That's
But
right.
now we've sort of transitioned into, I do have a team of virtual assistants, about 5, we call them outbound callers. Their
Mhm.
job all day long is to make outbound prospecting phone calls,
Now,
about
are
8
you
hours a
hooked up
day.
with an overseas outbound calling team?
They're all based in the Philippines.
Philippines.
I've sourced them myself. I don't have like a company that,
Yeah, you found it.
I found them. Yep. And my main guy has probably been with me a little bit longer than I've been with you guys. So my main Filipino, um, he has been a great, I mean, I could say that single-handedly, he's probably made me, a few $1,000,000 over the last 10 years.
Wow.
Um, and he's paid, very fairly. Uh, and he's based in the Philippines. He shows up every day. I could do a whole call about virtual assistants, but we have software where we can see his computer screen. We can make sure he's doing what he's supposed to be doing. We record his calls for training. Um, so we set him up on a platform. There's 5 outbound callers. He's sort
Yeah.
of the lead, and then they're all calling really different counties. I would say
Yeah.
each of them call about 2 counties
Yeah.
each. Um,
Yeah, we'll have to have a conversation offline, John, about how you've put together that kind of a team.
mhm,
'Cause I've
Yeah.
got my American
Yes.
staff call center, right?
mhm.
And I gotta admit, at times, they may not perform as well as I'd like. But they're still good
Except
callers.
the
I mean, I had a
265.
guy, we were doing a campaign for a guy in New York for over 2 years straight. Like it
Mhm.
was just an ongoing month after month after month, and we were scoring him upwards of he'd buy like a 40-hour block of time. We
No,
spread it
no,
out over.
no, not necessarily. I mean, it's a matter of knowing, like I said, it's really
Mhm.
just knowing where they
I think
are,
we got
what
a
their
mute.
threshold is,
Yeah, I think
as to
somebody.
what they can accept. So,
Hey,
um,
Tommy, can you mute?
I
Thank
took care of it.
you. Okay, we're
Everybody
ready.
got muted. I was like, wait, that's not John talking. So yeah, I had we were successful with
Yeah.
that particular campaign. We were getting 20 plus appointments every single month. So
Here's the thing. If I made all those calls myself, I would get a lot more appointments. I would get a lot
right.
more information,
Right.
right? Um,
Because you're digging
and
deeper in the conversation than your callers do.
exactly. Listen, the VA is never going to replace you. Um,
Mhm.
but you can give out certain responsibilities. So
Right.
what I would say is I'm hoping everybody on this phone call, is
Mhm.
doing some sort of prospecting, or at least wants to get into the prospecting. The
Right.
phone is your friend, and you got to be able to pick up the phone and make those
You got to
calls.
pick up the phone, man. You got to.
Yeah. That it's just, and listen, we do mailers too, and we get calls back from
Yeah.
mailers, a lot of them, but we do a lot of mailers, and
Yeah.
I spend a lot of money on postage, and I spend a lot of money on, I haven't yet, I'm a little bit old school. I have a guy in my office who folds all the letters for us. I mean, we have a machine who folds them, and a postage machine, so it's not
Ah,
like he's licking stamps and
yeah.
licking
Right.
envelopes, but we send a lot of that stuff out ourselves, like the other gentleman was saying last month.
Yeah. Yeah. So
And
you actually don't send it off to a mail house. You have your own in-house mailing.
I do, because
Right on.
I don't really have a reason for it. I think
Hey,
that
it
is
works.
something. What's that?
It works.
Yeah, that is something we should should eventually transition to. But it's, you know, our system's a little bit specific. So I'm if I'm being honest and coachable, I haven't yet given up the reins on that part of the process. That's definitely something I need to work on, just
Now,
because
do you
it would
also,
be cheaper.
John, do postcards, or is it just the traditional mailers?
We send out 2 letters. One, so let's just say you're on my probate list because you know, are the executor for an estate. You'll get 1 letter from me that essentially says, you know, we are a local real estate company. We can help you in a lot of different ways. We can either purchase the house from you directly and pay cash, and you won't, you know, have to go on the market. And then it also says if that's not your style or you would prefer another method, we could also list your home as a realtor. So you'll get that letter. And then
Okay.
2 weeks later, you'll also get a pamphlet. It's like a trifold pamphlet, which is telling the same story. But we've found that if you mail them, you know, again, the gentleman who hosted last month, I think, said that he mails his list multiple times. You have to do it. We were only mailing them once, and I know now that we've started mailing them at least twice. We're getting
You know, you gotta shoot yourself. If you only do a one and done, you're shooting yourself in your financial foot.
well, what you're going to do is you're going to say, oh, this doesn't work, and
Exactly.
you're going to stop doing it 30 days later because it doesn't work. But like anything, I can tell you there's months where we get 25 phone calls, and then there's months where we get you know, 4 phone calls. But here's the
Very
biggest
much.
thing I can tell you with the mailers is, you guys can still hear me okay?
Yeah, we can.
I got a strange message on my phone. The biggest thing I can tell you with the mailers is older people will take that letter and put it on their fridge. They all tell me that I put it in my file. I don't know what that is. I like to think I'm still young. I don't have a file yet. Maybe one day when I'm older, I will have a file, but they all save those letters. And I can't tell you how many times it's now, what, middle of July,
Yeah.
people will call me and say, hey, I got your letter in August of 2024, almost a year ago. Are you still interested? Does your offer still stand? Would you still be interested in buying a home in this area? And so people hold those letters, unlike, you know, and don't get me wrong, I think if I had to choose whether it was, you know, prospecting over the phone or the letters, I would probably take the phone any day. But the letters on top of it help me a lot.
Compliment. So, and that's
And
when I actually have done my
Can
own
I ask
personal.
can I ask a question?
Sure. What's that, Lionel?
Hi. Yes, in reference to the accuracy of the phone numbers and email
Yeah,
addresses.
we'll get to that, Lionel. They are accurate, and we'll be having a Q&A at the end of the presentation. So yeah, if you can hold off on the questions until the end, we'll be gladly answering all those kind of questions. But yes, we skip trace, we get phone numbers and emails. They're very accurate. Okay.
yeah, so the letters just complement the phone calls really, really well. And listen, I know we're in the world of Amazon Prime and everybody wants things immediately and instantly and instant gratification.
It is the instant world, man. Especially
But
like
yeah,
Amazon and that.
yeah, you got to do both. Or if I picked one or the other, I would lean towards the phone calling. We also text as well. So we're trying to hit people from really 3 different angles: phone calls, texts, and mailings. And what
Are
we
you-
find,
Email to them? Can
go
I
ahead.
interrupt? Do you email to the customers? Your
We don't
potentials?
do email. We
Okay.
don't. Good question. I can't give you a reason why. We just have never really done it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now the text messaging, are you doing a workaround with the opt-in channels, the way the whole ADP, A2P system is all set up nowadays? How are you, what's your workaround with that? If you don't mind me asking.
So I can't tell you. I can't, and it's not that I don't want to tell you. I just know that we're within the guidelines of
There you
Follow-Up
go.
Boss.
Okay.
Follow-Up Boss
Nope.
is very, very you know, there have been times where they've sent us a message where we've sent too many messages in
Mm.
one day. There's been
Right.
a time where they said we've sent too many of the same messages. There's been a time where they don't like the
Interesting.
message we're saying because we use the word cash offer.
Mhm.
You got to do your research and make sure that your messages are scripted the right way so that you're protected and you don't get in trouble.
Now, from what I
But
saw, and again, now we're just talking some marketing here, John. If you're making it as if you're looking to make a purchase, you're looking to buy something from them, not the
right,
other way around. That
right,
is kind of the little bit of a workaround language.
right, right,
That's best way to phrase it, I guess.
right. That's correct. Yep. That's what I've been told as well. And
And it's all in the language.
yeah. And you know what, I'll say this too, and I don't want to skip around too much, but it all kind of goes together. When I first started, um, buying your data, I was a realtor and I was a listing agent and a top producing listing agent. You know, in my prime, I think I did 100, 110 listings and about 40 buyer sales in 1 year. And I would say probably 30 to 40% of that did come from probate. The other sectors were expired and past clients. So we were really heavy focused on the listing side. And what we would do is we would send out these letters and we make the phone calls trying to get listing appointments with these prospects, of course. And I will tell you, over the years, I lost a lot of transactions to investors and flippers and contractors, and you know, all those guys are the same bucket. So there was a transition period where I started saying, well, you know what, instead of trying to list these, because I was the guy who was banging the table saying, all you got to do is paint your garage door and fix your fence, and I could get you more money. But my coach would tell me, John, you're not listening.
Yeah.
They're not telling you they want more money. They inherited this house from Aunt Sally. There's no mortgage. There's no occupants. This is money that they found in the couch, right?
Yeah.
It's like we joke, like it's like lifting up that couch cushion and finding a $20 bill. It's money that they weren't expecting to come to them, and it came to them. They don't care about paying you 6%. They don't care about, you know, all this other stuff, fixing it up. They just want to get it sold. So it really worked on the listing side as an agent.
Mhm.
But what I was finding was I'm sitting there trying to tell them, hey, fix it up a little bit and I can get you more money. And somebody else was swooping in and saying, I'm an investor. You don't have to do any work. I'll buy it from you right now. And so I sort of changed my approach in the middle, you know, maybe 2, 3 years in. Sad that it took me that long to realize. But we started saying, all right, well, maybe we can buy some of these, or at least maybe I have an investor lined up who can buy some of them if they don't want to go on the market. Because a lot of these people don't want all the neighbors in the house. They don't want the open houses. They don't want the for sale sign. They don't want everybody, they don't want it in, you know, Zillow. They want to
Right.
sell it. They don't want everybody knowing about it.
Mhm.
So
And
my coach, go ahead, Jeff.
I was gonna say that the marketing channel in the real estate realm, it's been more so over the past 5 years, but let's just say even 10, where it is evolving into less and less of the traditional real estate listing going on, where you do
Yeah.
have more and more and more quote quote investors
Yeah.
coming in and buying the properties and
Yeah.
from the end users.
Yeah. And I listen, and this is not a plug for Jeff. Jeff's not paying me to be here. Although, you know, if I come back, we might have to talk about, no, I'm kidding.
Compensation.
It honestly, it's been a great lead source for us for if you don't listen to anything else, maybe listen to this part. Here's the top reasons it's been a great lead source. Again, these people are inheriting a house from a family member. So, and generally that family member is older, right? Because they passed away. Now there's going to be some instances where people die of an illness at 50 years old, but most of these are older people. So a lot of times the mortgage is paid off,
Mhm.
meaning a lot of equity, meaning if you charge 6%, they don't care versus 5%. And if you ask them to list the house at 450 instead of 500, they're not going to beat you up on it as much as somebody who's living in the house currently. So pricing is fair. They've got a lot of equity. There's generally no occupants. Of course, husband could lose his wife, a wife could lose a husband, a wife could lose a wife. Anybody could lose their spouse. That happens. But a lot of these, and the ones that we try to target, are the people who are inheriting uncle's house, grandma's house, father's house, sister's house, a house that they're not currently living in. So what's that mean? It's a vacant house. We all know as realtors, a house that's vacant with no tenants or no family is really easy to show. So showings are easy. And here's the best part. What we try to do is focus on people who are out of state, right? So Jeff's going to send you a list every month. It's going to have 100 people on there, 200 people on there. It all depends on, you know, the number of leads in your county. But what I do first, as soon as I open that spreadsheet, is sort it by the people who are out of state, right? So the PR, the personal representative, I'm in New Jersey. I sort the list because a lot of times Uncle Joe passes away and the executor is his niece who lives in New Jersey as well, right? Follow me here. So she may know realtors in New Jersey. But what I really want to talk to, the people I want to talk to are the people who had somebody pass away in New Jersey, but they live in Florida or California because they now have inherited a property in New Jersey in an area that they may not know much about. They don't have a lot of contacts and resources. And when I call them and say, hey, I'm calling in reference to the property in New Jersey, I'm curious if you or the family would consider a sale. A lot of times they are open and willing to speak to you because they don't have a lot of resources there. I know firsthand right now, I'm trying to sell another property that I own in Albany, New York, which is only about 3 hours from me. And I don't know anybody there, and it's impossible to find anybody. I can't find contractors. I can't find landscapers. So I know that if somebody were to reach out to me selling me a service in that area, I would love it because I don't have resources.
Now,
So-
John, Laura's asking a question, and it's a good question for the group. So, does your VAs get all that extra info? The relationship of the person, or is it they're just setting the appointments?
Okay, so it's a great question. I would say, in my opinion, a basic VA is not generally skilled enough to get as much as anybody on this call could.
Right.
They are getting basic information. Are you interested in selling it or listing it? Do you have a price in mind? You know, where do you live currently? Of course, Jeff gives us that information, but we're confirming it.
Right.
What's your time frame? You know, we love to throw in the sort of reverse psychology question, which is kind of a trick question of like, why not just keep it, right? And then they'll give you all the reasons of why they don't want to keep it, which is a phenomenal question.
That's a good one. I like that.
You know, hey, listen, everything you've told me about the house, it seems like, listen, I understand that, you know, maybe your uncle didn't keep it up to a, you know, a 10 out of 10, but location is not bad. It's in a good area. Like, why not just keep it? And they'll be, I don't want to. It needs a new roof. It needs a new boiler. It's too
Good
close to the
takeaway
train.
style.
It tells you, they'll tell you everything. So that's a great question. Definitely write that one down.
Yeah.
We try to get them to give us the condition of the house. How would you rate the condition of your uncle's home on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being perfect? And they'll usually tell you 5 or 6 for this lead source, 6 or 7. Okay, so it's a 7. Well, what would make it a 10? And then again, they're going to tell you all the reasons it's not a 10.
Yeah.
So when you go in there and you make an offer for 400,000 and they were hoping for 450, or you go in there and you tell them to list it for 400,000 and they want 450, you've now got a whole bunch of reasons why it's not 450, right? Because they've told you it's not a 10. It's a 6 out of 10. It's a 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
And that's a great
actually
question.
told you, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question to use on any listing appointment. You know, before you go over there and meet with them, whether it's an expired or probate or whatever. But those are the main points our VAs are trying to get: condition, time frame, price, and, you know, motivation's a little bit of a different one for these types of calls because
So
they're
I'm gonna
motivated to
twist your
sell.
arm here a little bit, John. I know we kind of sort of had spoken about this prior to this, but Laura and a few other people are the script. You got scripts, and please correct me if I'm wrong. You're going to
Yep.
share them with me, and then we don't give them away, folks. I'm sorry. If you are a current US Probate Leads customer, you will get access to whatever John gives us. He's giving it as a gift to this company, right?
Hmm.
And that gift gets shared with customers who actually purchase data from our company. So that's a little bit of an incentive.
Yep.
Jeffrey to put on a sales hat, but yeah,
And
thank you, sir.
and here's the thing, guys. Like, and I'm happy to share that script. We call it R&D, right? Rip off and duplicate. That script has morphed into what it is today, just based on conversations with other people on this call, conversations with Jeff,
Mhm.
conversations with other, people calling probate leads throughout the country, things we find on ChatGPT, like that. That's just morphed into what it is because it works, right? You got to have the script. You got to really have the same conversation every time. And I'll give you the gist of it, right?
Mhm.
It's just, hey, I'm calling from XYZ company. I'm trying to reach so and so. I understand you're handling the estate for so and so. I'm curious if you folks would consider selling the property over at 123 Main Street, and then you go into it after that. But I think one thing to really point out here is, you know, there are a lot of people initially who are hesitant to call probate leads because they think maybe it's insensitive. Using air quotes here, it's probably uh, it's insensitive, or it's too soon, or they just don't like how it feels. Here's what I would say. It's another phase of life. And I mean, we've all called people who, I mean, I've done it. I've called people who just got married. Hey, I know in my database, right? You live in a studio, you just got married. Are you guys interested in upgrading to a one-bedroom condo? Or is there a baby on the way? They just announced that they're having a baby. Are you guys interested in upsizing to a two-bedroom condo? We used to sell a lot of condos. Are you guys interested from going to the condo to the house? It's a different phase of life, whether it's marriage, having a baby, death. People sell for two reasons, to move away from pain or to move towards pleasure. So this is just another lead source, and you have to kind of get that out of your head, because there are going to be people, right, who are not necessarily excited that you've called them. Their dad just passed away, and they're going to sometimes have an initial response, but there are far, far, far more people. I had a lady the other day who thanked me. She said, "You know what? If you didn't call me, I was literally just going to go on Zillow and figure out who was the top agent in the area and just give them a call. So you've made my life easier."
Yep.
So
Love that.
you
And
just have to
there is
be ready, though, for those calls, because some of those people do get upset. And listen, we're in the world of online reviews, and if you look me up, I've got a few people who just got upset that we called them too soon, and they thought it wasn't the best approach, and that's
Right.
fine. It's not for everybody, but there are far more people out there that are appreciative, and especially if you've got a system in place and you're a top realtor or a top investor, and you could get what you say you can get done.
Yeah.
They're appreciative.
Good.
So
No, I appreciate that. And it's like you were saying not that long ago. It's always about just picking up the phone, right? Whether it's a set appointment or a cold call or picking up the phone because somebody called you up, from the mailers.
yeah,
And both, all three channels, obviously, that you use, the text messaging world, the phone call world, the mailers, right? You combo those three, that's a pretty good arsenal, right?
yeah,
That you're
it,
using to be successful and this is also when I coach or when I have my presentations and talk to people, folks, you gotta have the mindset you are there to help them,
yeah,
right? They're in potentially some trying times. They've lost the loved ones, whatever the case may be. you need to be sympathetic to
Mhm.
that fact. So
Yeah.
put your heart hat on, so to speak, when you're having your conversations. And maybe they don't need to sell the real estate today. I'm sure, John, you've run into this many a times. So, but you build that relationship with them over time, right?
Yep.
So in 4 to 6 months, right, you keep in contact with them, having that sympathetic heart the whole entire way. So all of a sudden, you're not even gonna call them, they're gonna call you.
Right. And here's the thing. When we call, I'm sure a lot of people on here have called expireds. When you call expireds, there's a time window where they're going, they don't hate realtors because they were listed with one. They just hate their realtor or their old realtor, right? So when you call expireds, you have to call them really quick and you have to call them aggressively, or somebody else is going to beat you to it. With probates, you have to be a lot more sympathetic and a lot more sensitive. And if that's not your style, you got to fake it. But you have to be there, be who they need you to be. That's what my coach would always say. And here, I'll give you guys a good one-liner. I just try to overload them with value. Just meet them where they are. Like if they're in a house that's filled to the brim with boxes and clutter and junk because Uncle Joe was a hoarder, hey, listen, would it be helpful if, that's the line that I would want everybody to start using. Would it be helpful if, my coach gave me that years ago, and you can use it on any sort of lead source, but would it be helpful if I gave you a great local dumpster company? They could have a dumpster in the driveway tomorrow. Would it be helpful if I gave you a great group of guys who could come by and clean out the house?
Mhm.
Would it be helpful if I gave you a great local plumber or an electrician? Whatever they say the problem is, would it be helpful if I gave you this? And of course, the answer is yes, it would be helpful. They're going to say yes. Now, here's the trick. Don't give them the list of all your vendors. I've seen people make these nice things on Pinterest. Here's my vendor list, and it's got 20 phone numbers. Well, once you give them the list, they're never going to call you back because they have all the phone numbers. So
Right.
don't give them the list of everybody.
No.
Just explain to them that you have those people, and that way they'll call you back when they need them.
Correct.
But just try to
Yeah,
figure
I
out what
agree. Yeah,
their problem is. If they're leaning down the road of, hey, I want to clean it out myself, and I don't want you to buy it from me, and I don't care if you're paying cash, I want to put it on the market, no problem. Would it be helpful if I sent you the dumpster guys? Would it be helpful this? Would it be helpful if I came by and gave you a free CMA? Would it be helpful if, you're gonna just keep just using that idea over and over again? And it's like any other lead source, it's last man standing, because they're gonna get a lot of phone calls. It's not like probate is the hidden gem that no one else knows about. There are far less realtors calling probate, I can tell you that. But you're gonna have to do
Mhm.
something to stand out. I can come by and offer you my services. You want to make sure that you could do a lot of this stuff over the phone. Maybe I'm old school, but I try to get in front of them and meet with them and sit at the kitchen table with them
Right.
if I can. Um,
No,
and
that's the way
just
to do it. I would agree because you build that local relationship, John. And that's
Yep.
definitely something that in this niche, especially, is going to just put another extra feather in your cap. You got that local flavor. You're able to meet them at the property, at the kitchen table, maybe even meet them for coffee a couple of times.
hmm Yep. So you just need to figure out what's important to them, because everybody has a different style. I've talked to, like, high profile finance guys who are, boom, boom, boom. There's no emotion. Yeah, it was my mother's house, but we didn't have a great relationship. I just want it sold, get me a fair price, and get it done.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of guy where, you can meet him, figure out the price, sign a listing agreement, and it's done.
As
Then
John
you
Jerry
have
like me to do.
right. Then you have the other person who's, oh my God, I spent 27 Christmases in this house and every Thanksgiving, and this is the chair my mother would sit in. And it's sad, and you're gonna see the tears. And
No,
you know,
yeah.
you
The
you
emotion,
gotta
man.
you gotta be a lot more emotional on that one.
You do.
And um, so it's
Sympathy,
like any other
empathy.
aspect of sales. But the big thing, again, I can't say it enough, is that generally, unless they're living in the house, meaning like their husband passed away or the wife passed away or the spouse passed away, generally they do want to sell the house
Yeah, and one thing
because
about our list
yeah,
that I'll mention to this group if they've never bought from us. The list you will get the PR's info, and to separate it out, if the PR and the decedent last known address are the same, that means it's probably the spouse living in the house.
Right.
Same last name,
Right.
so
Yeah.
that's a different approach. Then you
Yep.
have, a niece, a nephew, daughter, whatever, that is living maybe in the state of Jersey, but not in the house, right? They're living up. The house is in Hoboken. I don't know Jersey. One's in Essex County. The other one's in Mercer. Okay, I know the counties. I
Yep.
know the cities, John.
I'm with
Hoboken,
you.
I can remember. I'm not
You're
a
doing
Jersey.
well.
I'm not a Jersey guy, man. I'm Southern California, born and raised. So.
I got you. Yeah, so you're gonna like that. That's like, as you get a little bit more experience, you start making those connections. But what I would do is plug that list into even if you don't have a dialer, just hand dial it and go through
Yeah.
Excel or print out the sheet or figure out what system is best for you. I know we were talking about hiring the VAs before. Unless you have a lot of experience with VAs, I'm not necessarily sure that's for everybody right out of the gate. Make the calls yourself, because what's going to happen is the VAs are going to start asking you questions, virtual assistants. What do I do if I say this? What do I do if they say this? How should I handle this? And if you haven't done it yourself, it's going to be really hard for you to make recommendations and coach them. So what I would say
Agreed.
is make those calls yourself for a few months, maybe even a year, and you're going to start getting those objection handlers down really well. If you want a really good dialer, I know somebody had just asked that. We've used Mojo or Vulcan 7. Those are both great to call. It's a multi-line dialer. So that will call 3 people at once, and whoever answers first, it will
Now,
connect you with
Vulcan
them.
does that too, right? John, Vulcan dials more than one
Yep.
number at a time. Wait, so I thought.
It'll call multiple people at once, and whoever answers it will connect you with somebody. It's great at just being able to put.
Me personally, I'm not
Yeah.
sure what you guys are using with your VAs currently, but I hate them predicted things. The reason being is on the other end, there's always, no matter how good a predictive one is, there's always a delay, right?
Yeah.
And you could be somebody there's like that bleep. I know because I own a call center and I know what the predictive dialers do. But you're gonna get somebody that's like, I'm waiting here. What's going to click? Not that connect.
Yeah.
That's being predicted dialer world. I like the
Yeah.
power dialer. Power dialers,
Yeah.
they'll dial like you just click a button, it goes to the next call. Click, 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 click. And if there's no answer voicemail, then you're still barreling through a couple hundred numbers a night.
Yeah.
So.
It's yeah, I've seen people have a lot of different approaches, but what I would say is if you're anxious to get started into this source, get the list, start with just your county, maybe where you live or where you feel most comfortable, or the addresses and the streets. Start there and call the list yourself. And whether you get the script from Jeff or you find something that works for you, call through it yourself. And you'll start getting the objection handlers down. You'll start figuring out, and you're going to have success. Don't get the list from Jeff July 1st and then wait until August 15th to call them. You got to call them, I would say, right away or very soon after getting it. But that you're going to have a lot of success, and you're going to be able to book a lot of appointments because these people generally do want to sell.
And the one thing is also true with our list, John, is we're not sending our customer base thousands of records to call every single month.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
our average size of a county is probably in the 100 range on average. Laura, is that a pretty good guesstimate as far as like what the average would be is about 100 range?
Yes, I think that's
Good.
fair.
That's a pretty
Yeah.
good fair assumption. There are counties that are over 200 a month, but there are counties that are only like less than 20, right?
Yeah.
And if you can't call 20 calls, then you're not you're in the wrong business.
And-
I'm just gonna say it.
And here's the thing I'll give you.
Me, but if you can't pick up the phone and make 20 phone calls, you need to find another
Yeah.
field to make to.
But here's what's going to happen. People are going to buy the data, and I don't mean to be negative.
Oh yeah.
They're going
No,
to
go.
text everybody, or they're going to mail them a letter, and they're going to ignore the phone portion. And then when they don't get results, they're going to get upset.
Yep.
So don't be that person.
Agree.
If you want to favor one of the three, the texting, the calling, or the texting, the calling, or the mailing, I would say favor the phone. I know you have to, like my coach used to always tell me, I can hear him in the back of my head, seek out more rejection. Right? Everybody favors the text messages and the mailings. Why? Because there's absolutely no rejected. If you're getting rejected in the mail, then you got a big problem, right? Because it's not immediate, right? Where's there more rejection? Over the phone. Why? People can hang up on you, they can yell at you, they can call you an ambulance chaser, they can say all the horrible things, but then there's going to be a lot more people that say, hey, what you're saying makes sense, and I'm actually going to be there on Saturday to clean out the house. I'm going to be wearing old clothes and digging through boxes, but if you want to come by, that's fine. And it's going to get you to what you want much faster. Then after you've had success with the calls, I would sprinkle in the text messages and the mailing, but definitely start with the phone. Don't ignore the phone. And what I'll tell you is that the number one objection I think we get from a lot of people is, thank you so much for calling. We're not ready yet. We're still cleaning out the house. Call me back in a couple months.
Very respectful.
Right. And what I always say to those people is, listen, are you open to some professional advice? And they always say yes. Nobody's going to say, no, I don't want that. They say yes. Great. Well, Jeff, you know what? Right now, we're helping a lot of people who also are in the process of cleaning out the house. Would it be helpful if, that's that line again, would it be helpful if I came out this Saturday or whenever you're going to be at the house next, I sat down with you for 15, 20 minutes, absolutely no obligation. There's no cost. I'm going to share with you what we're doing to get homes sold, what homes are trading for in the neighborhood. And, if it works for you, great. We can continue the conversation. If it doesn't, there's no obligation. Worst case scenario, you just learn a little bit more about what's going on in the market. And that works every time. And like that, you're just trying to be a resource to them. And,
Exactly.
and-
Laura actually has a couple of questions. Go for it, Laura.
yeah,
Oh, hey, thanks, John. So
course.
Clay was asking what you would recommend for someone in surplus and tax overages recovery business. Is that anything?
I honestly don't know what that means.
Is Clay, you want to unmute and
Clay, you want to elaborate?
Clap? Yeah.
Hello. Sorry.
Hi, Clay.
No, so basically, hi, how are you doing? No, so basically the main thing I'm asking is for asset recovery businesses, because we also work with leads. So let's say somebody passes away and they sell the house, but there is times where people don't receive the money. Or like, let's say the house they get evade.
Yeah, that's going to be that would have to be, John. Maybe you can elaborate this. So, I guess what he's asking here is, there is a house that has been sold, right? So there's monies in the estate, right?
Yeah.
And I think what he's saying is to help the heirs with that asset recovery. Is that
So
kind of what you're looking at?
a funding
Yeah.
process.
I have to be honest, I don't think I've ever run into anything like that.
Yeah. I'm not familiar with it either. I believe somebody asked me this. I've been talking to people on the phone lately, and I think he was somebody that was, or somebody he's associated with was asking that very scenario. And that's pretty much what I told the guy is, like, that's not something we do. We can't go into these probate cases and say this, and this has happened. You're going to have to do your own homework.
Right.
And probably reach out to the probate attorney. I would imagine they're going to be the resource for handling assets in the estate.
I mean, the biggest snag that we have in the probate system is just that sometimes these counties are so backed up that it takes them forever to get because what happens is, remember, when they pass away, and again, I'll be honest, guys, we do hundreds of probate transactions. I don't even know all the ins and outs of probate. I know there's probate courses out there. You can get a master's in probate, all this other stuff. I don't even know the whole process myself. You don't need to, though. You just need to know, because most times they're going to have an attorney who's handling all that for them. But the biggest thing that slows us down is that they're waiting for endless amounts of time. We've all dealt with government offices, right? Whether it's getting your real estate license or getting your driver's license or whatever. Sometimes it's just, it takes, a month to move the piece of paper from the right side of the desk to the left side of the desk. I don't know why. No offense to any government employees, but it just takes a while. So sometimes it moves really quickly. So you just have to kind of be patient. So the biggest thing I would tell you is, like we were talking before, is sometimes they're going to tell you it's too soon. I got to clean the house out. You can come over in a month. You have to get past that objection. This is the biggest thing that I work on with my virtual assistants and people on my team. If you just say, okay, no problem, I'll call you back in a month, you're going to lose out every
You'll lose
time.
out. Yeah, you'll lose out.
Yeah, because here's what's going to happen. A stronger
suggestion
caller or
is-
stronger. Yeah.
Yeah. If you can't get them to commit to meeting with you on that initial intro phone call that you're actually communicating with them, or the VAs, right? And they say, well, I'm not ready, call me in a month. Guess what? You're calling them next week.
Right.
Or 2 weeks out. You're not waiting a month. You're going to shoot yourself. Somebody else is
Right.
going to come in. You're not the only game in town. You're not the only realtor in
Yeah.
town. You're not the only one that's going to be trying to connect with these people to get them to sell their property. So you want to build that immediate relationship. And if you can't, objection handling, you can't overcome that initial objection to meet them someplace, to have that further conversation. Guess what? You're going to call them in a week.
Yeah. Always cut the time in half.
Yep.
But
Yep.
what I would say is, here's the thing. If they tell you call me in a month and it's July 10th and you put into your dialer, I'm going to call them on August 10th. You're going to call them on August 10th and they're like, John, I got 3 offers and I went with the highest one. Like, I don't even remember who you are.
Here's your list.
And it's gonna burn, and you're
Oh,
never
yeah.
gonna let that happen again. So
Yep.
what I would just say is, listen, there's absolutely no obligation. There's no pressure. They're gonna tell you there's boxes. I'm embarrassed. I had no idea my uncle, my father was a hoarder, whoever it is. Listen, we go in and out of homes every single day. I'm not gonna judge you. We're not looking at the mess or anything like that. If I always jokingly say, if you were to come into my house on 1 day's notice, I wouldn't probably be ready for you either. But here's the deal. We're looking at the bones of the house. We just want to see, the overall layout, bedrooms, bathrooms, just so we can get an idea, right?
Right.
And trust me, there's sometimes you walk in that house and you want to burn your clothes because it's a disaster, but you've got in the door and you were to meet with them. Because here's the thing, and I always try to compare, I don't know why, but this always ends up happening. I always compare it to interviewing contractors. I don't know why, but if you need to get work done in your house, let's just say you're going to redo your kitchen. You try to get 2, 3 bids, right? Why don't you get a 4th or a 5th or a 6th? Because you're exhausted. You don't want to meet with 4 or 5 or 6 people.
Sure.
You just want to go with the person that is prepared and the person whose price seems to be fair. And when you have 1 or 2 other appointments, you have something to compare it to. So what happens is, if you can't get your foot in the door and be one of those first 3, they don't want to meet with more people. So you got to get in there early because they're going to go with
Here's a
somebody early.
question that maybe you can help me with this, John, because I've had 2 different types of answers. So I know you can't list the house, right, when it's still in probate. That I know, right? It cannot go into a listing process, nor can it be sold technically, right? Can, in theory, again, no legal advice, but in theory, can somebody create a contract and say,
Mhm.
when this, and this happens, John Scipione's office is going to have the deal. Is there something like that?
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. That's an important point. And this is a good one too. Another Mike Ferry coach of mine, probably the same coach. And this is a good point too. If you guys want to write this part down, create a whisper campaign, and you can use that for other lead sources too. Expired, for sale by owner. But you say to the seller, hey, if they're saying, hey, I'm not ready yet, I got to clean it out, or I don't have the paperwork yet from the county. What I would say is, hey, Jeff, you know what? I understand where you're coming from. Would you be open to this? What if we were to sign an agreement today that, of course, is contingent upon you being, named executor, and we're waiting on that
Exactly.
paperwork?
Yeah.
And then that gives me the ability to start marketing your house. I'm going to start spending money, and I'm going to start talking to people who I know are looking around 123 Main Street. And then when you give me the green light to start showing your house, whether that's in 3 weeks or 4 weeks or 5 weeks, I now already have a list of 15, 20, 25 people who want to see your house on day one. And can I share with you how that's different than other agents? Yeah, well, of course. Well, other agents don't start marketing your house until, a month from now when you're ready. Why don't I start working simultaneously while you're working to clean it up and get the paperwork from the county? I'll work to start getting some buyers. I won't share a price with them because the price may change. So we'll sign the agreement and it says to be determined by the seller right before listing.
Right.
And then I meet with the seller 40 days, 40 days later, right before we go on the market, and we say, hey, what price would you want to list the home at today? And so, as long as it's in line with the comps, we can pick the price then. But that's a good point to bring up. I used to have so many homes, and people would tell you, sellers would tell you, or prospects would tell you, oh, it's too soon. I'd say, actually, there'd be people like, give me a call back in October. And I'd be like, Jeff, can I share something with you? I'm working on another listing in the neighborhood. They don't even want to sell it until November. So in comparison to them, we're a little bit behind. Wouldn't it make sense for me to just come over 10, 30, 10, 20 minutes this weekend? We'll sit down. I'll share with you what we can do for you. And if it works for you, great. If not, no big deal.
Love it.
So yeah, don't let them tell you it's too soon. Don't let them tell you the house is a mess.
So you can still get some sort of an agreement from them. even
I
though
would get
it
those
can't
signed all
help
the
them
time.
list it.
Yeah.
Good.
Yep.
That's what I thought. Good to know.
Yeah, and that's important. That's a huge one. It's not a whisper contract. I saw her message. You're getting a
Yeah.
real contract signed. It's a real listing agreement, but you have to get the separate form, I think, from your MLS that says you're not putting it on the MLS day one. So it's a real listing agreement with the seller. You're just not putting it on the MLS until, of course, the seller's ready.
Interesting. So that does exist
So
out there. And is it different state by state? Now you're talking
yeah,
New Jersey. And that should be nationwide, right? That's allowed?
I know a lot of people who do it in other areas. Yeah.
I would assume. Cool.
Yeah. Because think about it. I mean, even whether it's probate or not, there's plenty of
Yeah.
people who say, yeah, I want to list with you. I'm just not ready to start showing it right now.
Yep. And you just get some sort of agreement in place.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, that opened up a little bit of can of worms. I can see some comments coming through the chat. That's okay.
But remember, it's
what? It's fine.
contingent.
I'll open up the can of worms.
It's
all right.
contingent upon them being named the executor.
Exactly. Contingent upon them.
Yep.
And they
Yep.
are the PR. They're the ones that are making decisions on behalf of this estate anyway. And when the judge
Correct.
gives the final stamp of approval, guess what, folks? You're going to be the one that then, when they're ready, because you've already got the agreement in place, that they're going to go through you, and so you can't list it, you can't technically market it, but guess what? You can get some feelers out there for it, like John was saying. So
Yeah.
cool. All right, man. John, I'm not sure what your schedule's like for the rest of the morning, or I think we were trying to schedule this for about an hour.
Yeah.
Dude,
I'll
thank
just
you.
let me
Thank
just
you.
close with one thought.
Yeah, talk to me.
It's funny to leave this till the end. We've had so much success with probates, and because of Jeff and his team, that we've actually now transitioned more so into buying them than listing them. We're buying a lot more properties than we are listing, just because there's a lot more people. I was like starting to allude to this before. There's a lot of people out there who say, hey, I'd rather sell it to a cash buyer. I don't want an open house. I don't want the showings. There's going to be people who want top dollar, and there's going to be people who want a lot more, but there's also a lot of people who say, hey, you know what? I want it quick. I want it easy. And I just want to buy the property. I want somebody to buy the property from me directly. So at one point, about a month ago, I think I had 11 probates under contract, and we were doing a lot of different things with them. Two or three we sold to another builder, and we made a spread of, again, this is not me bragging, spread of 50,000, 75,000. We've made spreads of 150,000, selling them to other builders who can actually build a house that I'm not capable of building. We've had some that were closer to our office that we just did a quick flip. You know, we did like vinyl floors and paint and just cleaned it up. And we've done ones that were a full gut renovation. Hired a contractor, hired a GC, and completely did the house.
So
We're
there's
doing
some that
another
you're
one.
actually fixing up yourself. It's a fix and
Yes.
flip, it's a fix and flip. You're investing the money and then you're putting it on the market later.
Yep. And here's the thing, you know, I'm more of a numbers guy, and I don't know. I don't want people to think, oh, he must be a contractor. You know, I have I love that stuff, and literally, there's construction going on at my house as we speak. I'm laughing. As soon as I said I'm not a contractor, they started drilling.
Banging
But
and stuff, man.
yeah, it's definitely something I think a lot of people should also consider, because here's the thing. Don't get me wrong. I love making a 5% commission, or, you know, a 3% listing commission, but there's transactions in the probate field that you can make 30, 40, 50,000. You know, again, it's not boasting. It's not arrogance. I think our biggest spread on a probate transaction was 187,000 on one deal.
No shit.
So
Wow.
now Jeff's gonna start charging me
John,
more
that
money.
is going in my success stories.
My price just
write
went
that
up.
down for me, John. That is going in my success stories. I haven't.
Yeah,
yeah, that's funny. That's good.
Yeah,
Man.
and here's the thing, you know, the seller said it was my father's house. It's an absolute wreck. I would never want an open house. I would never want a realtor. I think I said to a buddy of mine, hey, somebody I know should buy this. And he said, you're a fool. Why don't you buy it? And trust me, at the time I had some money saved up, but I didn't have enough. And then people introduced me to some bridge loan guys, like hard
Bridge
money
funding,
lenders, we call them, and bridge funding. And here's the secret. You don't need a lot of money. They will lend you almost all of it. So become close with some of those hard money lenders. You could do a lot of those deals. Again, at one point, I think we had 11 or 12. Now I think we're down to more like 3 or 4. But yeah, we've transitioned. I know there's a lot of realtors on the call, so I didn't want to make it all investor side, but we've transitioned really more so into buying them than listing them. But we can help them both ways, however they want it.
Okay, let's open this up for a few minutes, John, to Q&A.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to, well, actually, let me do this. I'm going to share my screen real quick. I got a couple of specials going on, and then I'm going to open it up to Q&A. So the main special I want to talk about is I've got a couple of BOGO off. I got a BOGO offer. There we go. Hold on. Wrong one. Whoop. Where'd it go? Stop share. Hold on.
John, do you have recommendations for hard lenders in your area?
I use asset-based lending. They're based in New Jersey. They're known as like ABL. I know a lot in my area. I have heard of a lot of people using. There's like an online one. Can't remember the name of it. Somebody may know. I'm drawing a blank, but yeah,
Send
the hard
it to
money
me,
lenders,
John,
like
in an email that we can then that when people start asking things like this, I've got a couple of sources. If you could, please.
yeah.
Yeah, take
And
your
here's the deal too. Like, we'll joint venture with people too. I'm not trying to, you know, like, but I'll put it out there. Like, if anybody has a deal, probate or not, in their market, and they want to figure out how to structure it, either A, give me a call and I can try to help you, or B, we would consider doing a joint venture. Like we as realtors have access to so much data and so much experience. Like, why are we not all buying a lot of real estate? Like, and you know, I don't know. It didn't, that light bulb unfortunately didn't go on for me until a few years ago. But over the last, you know, 3 or 4 years, we've bought a lot of homes, single family homes for flips and for you know, renovations, and we've bought a lot of multifamily.
Okay. All right. So I've got a couple of different specials talking about data now. I've got a BOGO offer. How that works is, let's just say you prepay for July if the July data hasn't come in. As long as I have it in my database, you'll get June for free. So get with me offline. I'll put my calendar link in the chat before the end of this. We're about to open up the Q&A, but I'll put while we're doing the Q&A, I'll put my direct calendar link. Please put yourself on my calendar. Let's talk some shop. Let's get some data. John is brought some gems today into this meeting, and thank you very much, my friend. My other special is this is a brand new special that's good through the month of July. I got a prepay option, and it's county by county based, but essentially you're going to be saving approximately 50%. You don't get free data, but you prepay for 3 future months at a considerable discount. And this is only for new customers or adding new. If you're an existing customer, you want to add another county, that's where the prepay will kick in. And again, this is only good through the end of July. And then I've got historical data. So when you first start out a county, it's always good to get 4, maybe 6 months of some of the older data. And depending on the counties, I've got it discounted down to 50 cents a record. So with that being said, Laura, let's open this up, and John, to the Q&A. I'm going to put my calendar link in the chat. Please, everybody, put yourselves on my calendar. But you unmute yourself, ask away. John, if you don't mind hanging out for about another 10 minutes or so.
No, yeah,
Q&A.
I'm here.
Let's do it.
Hey, John, I got one for you.
Sure.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on and doing this too, man. It's very good information.
Yeah.
Very helpful. I was just wondering, so for like a lot of these out of state people, you said you're calling them first or whatever for probates. How are you getting in the home? A lot of times they're obviously going to make it to the area eventually to clean it out and everything, but are you doing like a listing presentation over like a Zoom meet or like Google Meet, or like how are you actually doing all of that there?
Great question. So definitely focus on those people. Again, if Jeff sends you a list of like 100 people, maybe 10 of them will be out of state. So those are the
Mhm.
people where I remember back in the day, I used to literally make like literally index cards just so I wouldn't forget about any of those people. Like, so I'd really emphasize focusing on them, get them on the phone, and just find out like what their story is. A lot of them, if they're from Florida or somewhere outside of New Jersey, eventually
Mhm.
they're going to be here. Um, and if that's like within 1 or 2 weeks, I'm going to try to nail down an appointment with them, even if it's far out. Once you get the appointment with them, they I think they call it like Irish guilt. They feel obligated to hold that appointment with you, which is much better and much different than saying, yeah, give me a call back. I think I'll be in town in 2 weeks. No, it's like, hey, I'm looking at the calendar, July 31st, whatever it is, Saturday. Let's tentatively schedule for 2 o'clock. And if anything changes, we can always reschedule it. That's much better than just saying, let's stay in touch. That's if they're going to be in town, and usually they are. If they're like, listen, most of them are planning to make a trip there because they've now inherited this house and they got to do something. So you just want to make sure that you're part of that trip and try to be at the early end of that, because here's the thing: if they're planning to be here for 4 days, and they've already met like 3 realtors that they like in the beginning of the trip, they may cancel the appointments towards the end. So
Right.
you got to get in there and get in there in front of them early.
Mhm.
If they're not planning to come, do you have a neighbor? Do you have a family member? Do you have a friend in the area that has a key that can maybe show me around? And then we could do everything else virtually. Sometimes, like if we're buying it or we think it's more of like a land play, like a tear down, and we're going to sell it to a builder or something, we don't need to see the house. So then we could just do it all over the phone. You have to kind of be creative. And is there somebody that can let me in the house? I've had a woman who was like, you know what? You seem like a nice guy. I'm going to FedEx you the key. She mailed me the key. We'd never met. Some people will be like, the key is under the mat. You just have to kind of find a way. Are you sure there's nobody in the neighborhood that's got a key? Maybe they could let me in for 5 minutes. And then what I can do is just, take a quick look around and report back to you. But just
Right.
don't take no for an answer, because somebody's got a key somewhere.
Okay. And then you're going back and doing that actual presentation on like a virtual call or virtually or whatever, because if they're not coming to the
Yeah.
area specifically. I'm
Right.
saying. Cool.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And
I
then I
like
mean,
to.
can you use I work with Brandon Mulrennan, if you know him.
Yep.
He's my coach for real estate.
Yeah.
Yeah, he always pushes the circle prospecting like script that we have.
Yeah.
And it's basically just asking like, hey, like, do you know anyone, considering selling? Like we have a client looking in the area. Would you recommend something like that? Or would you honestly just go straight at it, kind of
So
like you said earlier?
kind of pretending like you don't know that they're
Hey,
the probate.
we're looking for people that
I
are looking
have
to.
That's not what we do. We go into the probate a script and acknowledge the fact that they're the executor. And I would say I like to lean more on that and just explain to them like, hey, we help a lot of people in the probate process, and like, there's going to be things that come up. This is different than selling your own home. It's a different process, and because we're really skilled in it, like we can be a resource to you. And in truthfulness, the attorney usually generally takes care of most of all that stuff. But
Right.
I would rather paint myself as like a probate expert than, you know, kind of shy away from telling them how you found their information. And
Sweet.
that's a good point too. Like people are going to say, "How'd you find my information?" What we
Of
say is,
course.
"Oh, we pull it from public record." And they
That's
say,
exactly what I
"Public
say.
record? Yeah, it looks like you're listed as the personal representative for the estate." Oh, that's listed somewhere? It is. And we're just curious. Like, just go right back into it. We're just curious. Would you and the family consider a sale? And
Cool.
honestly, it's funny. i- An hour later, or whenever you meet with them next, they don't even remember how you met them or that there was any kind of like, you looked my phone
Yeah.
number up on public record. Like, they forget all that stuff as long as you can prove yourself.
I cold call a decent amount, and I get that all the time where they
Yeah.
act like
So you know
we're.
what to say.
I say public record every time. I got it from the public record.
Yeah,
So like, if you got an offer right away, would it make sense to actually move or not anymore?
exactly.
Yeah.
Just jump right
Good.
back into it.
Yeah.
Good
Evidently,
job.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Jared is saying that Brandon Morel, he's got a probate script.
I just saw that too. Yeah, I saw that come up as I was talking. So I will look for that. I didn't notice it in the script book's pretty large.
Oh, is it really?
I like to
He
share.
says
I
he
like to share
uses
a
and it
tip.
works.
Yeah.
Jared. Thanks, sir.
I like to share. I like to share a tip I've had great success with. That people in my industry indicate that I look at things differently. So here's my success story. I'm in Southern California, and many PRs are out of state because the house I grew up in California, they went to college in another state and never came back. So what I've done is look at the address where the PR lives in another state, is zoom in and find the closest real estate office to that address, and then offer 25% referral fee to that agent to visit the PR, and they become friends, and they recommend me because it's um, a live notice of the good realtor in Southern
That's a good
California.
approach.
Okay, and so interesting though, because our value in California is generally at least twice the value of the state of the realtor they're referring from. So a 25% referral on the California property is like 50% to them. So they're very anxious to help me in that regard. And so it worked out pretty good that way.
Good. That's great.
Awesome. Anybody else have any questions for John or anybody else on that might be able to answer the questions as well?
I have a question regarding the accuracy of the phone numbers and email addresses. How do you find those numbers and contact information accurate?
Very, very,
accurate. But John, I'll let you. I mean,
yeah.
you guys make calls. Go for it, John.
Yeah, very, very accurate. It's no one's going to be 100%, but it's Jeff. It's the only time sometimes it's off is if like sometimes instead of me reaching Jeff, I'm reaching like his brother or his uncle, and it's still within the family generally, and which is fine. Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to reach you. I must have reached you by mistake. I'm trying to reach Jeff Sweet. Can you point me in the right direction? Well, what are you calling him about? I'm calling him about the house over at 123 Main Street. Sometimes what I
He's a
say,
deadbeat, man. He don't.
Sometimes what I say is, I had a number for him. It was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is that still a good number? They go, no, that's not his number. This is his number. And they give you the real number. So, I mean, in all joking aside, the numbers are very, very accurate. And,
Yeah.
that's, I think, why we've
And
stuck with you
I
guys
can
for
even
so long.
attest to that, as John is saying. We've used a couple of top sources over the past 7 years or so for phones. And within my knowledge of the phones, because I do have a couple of callers that make some outbound calling efforts, we don't find an alarming number of disconnects or wrongs. There's always going to potentially be 2 or 3 another 1 or 2 other numbers. If number one number happens to be wrong or disconnected, potentially there's a second or a third number. So try those.
Yeah.
Another
Sometimes
question,
it's all three.
James, if I may.
Pardon?
I have another question, if I may.
Sure.
Yeah, if for some reason you cannot reach the person, the PR or whoever that person is, do you leave any message?
I do. That's a great question. A lot of people don't leave messages. I leave a very short, basic message. Hi, this is John from the real estate company. I was trying to reach you regarding the property over at 123 Main Street. Please call me as soon as you get this. Because here's the thing. If you say, oh, I'm wondering if you want to list your house or if you would be open to a cash offer, blah, 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 you're giving them too much and they don't really, you're telling them really what it's all about and they don't usually call you back. So you have to
So you
be my
just leave a
coach
brief
again.
message and say, hey, I'm just calling about the property. That's all you ask.
Yep.
Brief message.
Call in reference to the property. Please call me as soon as you get this. There's got to be some
I like that.
urgency, and you list the address. Then they don't know if you're calling about did the electric turn off? Are you from the electric company? Are you the landscaper? Are you the what? And then you get a lot more calls back. Why would I call you back? You already told me everything that we talked about before. I'm still packing. I don't have the paperwork yet. They won't call you back. So you have to be creative. But yes, I do leave like the short and sweet voicemails.
How many touches do you usually do before they call you back?
I don't know if I know the answer to that. I mean, the numbers are accurate. So we generally get in touch with somebody. I would say you're not going to get a whole lot of callbacks, but that is the best voicemail to leave to get the callback. What I would say is I'm trying to get people really on the phone, in the first, I don't know, 3, 4 attempts, that sort of thing. But generally, if I talk to them 3 times and they're really not having it, I'll toss them. But the reason I toss most probate leads is because they've either listed with another realtor or they're selling it direct to somebody else, or they've decided to stay in the house. But that's awesome, right?
Here's
Like,
a good question.
They're either selling to somebody else, which means maybe I was just too late, or they're staying in the house, which maybe I nurtured them for a little bit, but rarely do they say, oh, I've just decided not to sell. That doesn't happen, which happens a lot in other lead sources. Expireds just say, you know what, we're going to stay. Mortgage rates are low. For sale by owners say, oh, we can't get our price. We're going to try again next year. Nope. Probate, unless like they decide to stay in the house because it was their husband or their wife and they found a way to afford it, they stay. But almost always are they selling it. It's just, are they going to sell it with you as an agent, or are they going to sell it to you as an investor or somebody else? So
Somebody did have a question, John. When leaving a message, do you double check and not leave a message if they're on the DNC?
I mean, we look at all the numbers for the DNC, and I know this call's recorded, so what you do with your DNC
Exactly.
calls is up to you. What I have heard is that you get one sort of mistake in your career.
Yes.
I'm going to knock on wood, but definitely, compare it to the DNC list and then make your decision.
There you go. Good answer. Good answer. All right.
I have a question real quick, if I
Go for
may. I wanted to know what percentage of those properties actually go on the market, for
Sure.
you? What percentage are sold to investor or you buy?
It's hard for me to answer. The only reason I'm hesitant is because we've now become so obsessed with the investment side that there are some listings that we sort of let fall through the cracks just because we've found it much more profitable to purchase them. But I'd say it's probably about 50-50. And here's the thing, if you think about it this way, a lot of times it's an old timer's house and they may have really kept it up, meaning like painting and repairs and stuff, but it's still got that shag carpeting. So it's kind of primed for a flip or a contractor or something like that. So a lot of those, are better for an investor. Rarely do we find something that has got Viking appliances and Sub-Zero fridges and it's in mint condition and it's like 100% we call retail or MLS. So rarely are they like 100% MLS. A lot of times they fall in the middle and you just kind of have to figure out what's important to them. Are you okay with an open house and multiple showings and people coming in and out and maybe spending a few dollars on some curb appeal and painting the doors and making it look a little bit better? Oh no, you don't want to spend any money? Okay, then maybe you're better for the investor. If you are interested in spending a few dollars and sprucing it up, let's go on the market and just kind of figure out who they are. But I'd say it's probably like 50-50. We were just finding in our business I was losing listings to people who would buy it direct. And in my head, I was being too stubborn. I wasn't thinking that I could be the one buying it until I met the hard money lender and he showed me, hey, you really only most times need to put down, they say 10%. So I just started buying them. But what I would tell you in the very least is go to it, from both perspectives. Hey, we can help you in any way. That way, if you're not necessarily sure what they want to do, you can try to pick up a deal either way. I can list it for you, or if you'd prefer a direct buyer, why don't you just think of your investor list and try to link them up with an investor?
I was wondering too about at the appointment taking video and photos to show investors. I used to work for Mark Spain, and that's what we did is we'd go in, do video, photos, and then upload them to the investors.
That's a great point. And that's probably something I should have mentioned earlier. We take videos and photos. We try to take at least like 30, including the mechanicals too. Take one of the panel, take one of the electric meter. I'm sorry, the electric meter, the water meter, the furnace, everything. Because you never know what's going to happen. If you go there on a Tuesday, sometimes you get a call from that same seller on a Thursday. Always ask for their permission to take the photos. 96% of the people will let you. I always preface it by saying, hey, these photos aren't going anywhere. It's just, I'm seeing a lot of homes. This is exactly what I say. I say, I'm seeing about 4 or 5 homes today, and they all really start to blend together if I don't take pictures. Would it be okay if I take a few pictures just for my own use? Yes. And that's the truth. And then 3 days later, sometimes they say, you know what, we'd really like that cash offer. I think that's better than going on the market. And then I've already got the pictures. I don't have to go back and would it be okay if I shared the photos I took when I met you with our investors? Yes, no problem. So yeah, that's a great point.
All right. All right. So I did put my calendar link, my toll-free number, my cell phone number. I've already had some people already book themselves on my calendar. John Scipione, dude, I am thankful that you've been able to spend this time. This has been awesome. Another great webinar series that we've been doing. We're going to try and do these monthly, folks. We're always going to bring in a new guest. Who knows? I may have John be a repeat guest. I'll have to pay him for his time.
Nah, we're always happy to help, and like it sounds crazy, but we're probate obsessed. It's been really great to us, and I'm trying to find another source that could be as good.
We'll help you get data, John. Whatever you need. We can help you find something else too. We got the pre-probate going. We have access to other data as well. So, if you want to
Yeah.
dip your toes in
Awesome, guys.
anything else, let me know. We'll figure it out.
Thank
So-
you. Thank you.
Yeah,
I will.
thank you very
I
much
will.
for your time, sir.
Thank you, guys.
All right. And if there's no other
right.
questions, I'll close the meeting. Again, put yourself on my calendar. Take advantage of my specials.
Sorry, I had to do this from my phone.
Dude, you're good, man. I
Yeah,
appreciate you going the
agreed.
extra mile. So yeah, we've got specials. This pay forward option has never been offered before like it is now. So it's a great time to take advantage of getting some data from this company, and you get it through 3 consecutive months in the future. You can always buy some of the older data, or the BOGO offer is you prepay for like July, and I give you the June data. That my prepay option, honestly, if you want my honest opinion, is the better deal of the two. But also whatever you guys want to buy. So I'll put my sales hat on. And on that note, again, John Scipione, dude, you've been awesome. Laura, as always, you are
Thank-
operations extraordinaire. Thank you, Laura, for taking care of the chat for us. And
Thanks, guys.
on that note, everybody have an awesome afternoon. You guys all have a
Thank
good
you
one.
both.
All
Take
right,
care.
you're welcome.
Bye,
See ya.
guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.